Welcome to Credit and Bankruptcy with Reed Allmand. Reclaim your power for financial independence. And now, your host, Reed Allmand.
Welcome, everyone. We've got a lot of useful information for you today. We're going to be discussing things that you should be aware of if you're considering filing for bankruptcy and right after you start the process to begin the bankruptcy. And I'm really excited to have somebody special with me here today to walk through all these things. Her name is Danielle Gaines, and she's operations manager for Allmand Law Firm. And Danielle, thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
No problem. All right. So, when the people are considering filing for bankruptcy, they make a lot of the same mistakes. You're probably aware of that.
Yes. Yeah.
There's basically several things that you should be aware of if you're considering filing for bankruptcy. Number one, you need to be aware that 3 months before you file the case, 90 days before filing, you're presumed to be insolvent. And that's a legal term for basically meaning you're presumed to already be bankrupt or broke. And any debt that you incur and any transfers that you make, it's presumed that they were in contemplation of filing for bankruptcy. And so with that in mind, some people, before they talk to the attorney or they're talking about you starting the bankruptcy process, they get ahead of themselves and want to try to transfer property. Let me go ahead and buy that car. Let me pay off this creditor that's a really good friend of mine. Does that cause problems?
Oh, yeah. So, part of the process is providing a lot of this documentation, right? Yeah. And so it's all trackable and traceable. And so we want to make sure that everybody is above board and doing the right thing. And, you have that instinct to protect what's yours, and you want to give that money to family or move it around. And it might not be intentional, but you just want to protect what you already have because you think you're not going to be able to have it later. But it's all trackable, it's all traceable, and it's all going to come back to really bite you in the end. So, you just want to refrain from moving things around, right? Exactly.
In this digital age, everything is trackable. I mean, we've got different products that the U.S. trustee has and we have available. There's a thing called Lexis Search that can check any titles that have transferred. You can request bank statements, you can request credit card statements. It's really, everything kind of leaves a digital trail, and you need to be aware of that. And the reason why a lot of people do it is because they're afraid. Like you said, they're afraid that they're going to lose their property. They're afraid that something bad's going to happen, and they want to make sure that that's not going to happen if they file the bankruptcy case. When in reality, if they would just contact us, schedule a consultation, we can tell them exactly what's going to happen. And people are usually surprised how generous the property exemptions are. Isn't that what you find?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you just want to, you have that sense of panic and that sense of, I just need to do something right now to get myself out of the hole. But really, taking the time to talk to us and talk to somebody when we have your initial consultation, we can really walk you through what the reality is, because you might not know all the ins and outs, right? And there are things that are there to protect what you have.
Right. Yeah. So you have to make certain disclosures about transfers you made under penalty of perjury on the bankruptcy schedules. You also, the trustee has the power to potentially undo transfers right before filing. So somebody may think, oh, this lot that I own, if I file bankruptcy, I'm going to lose it, so I'm going to transfer it to my uncle. When if they had talked to us, they could have kept the lot and we could have exempted it under their property exemptions, and it would have been no issue for the bankruptcy. But now that they've transferred it, they've created this huge issue. So that's basically what the point of it we're trying to get across is check with us first. Don't take self-help actions because you think you're filing for bankruptcy. Find out the information first. And also along the same lines, don't make any big purchases. If you are you're thinking, hey, I'm gonna make this purchase and I don't really have the intent to pay it back because I know I'm gonna file bankruptcy, that can also come back to bite you, because the creditors have a right to object to the bankruptcy. They have a right to object to these transfers. And if they can prove that this was made in contemplation of filing for bankruptcy without you having the intention to go forward with it, they have the power to make that debt non-dischargeable.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you don't want to. You're already in a tight financial situation. You don't want to compound it more by incurring more debt or purchasing large items with the intention of, well, it's just going to get included and it's going to be taken care of, because that's going to cause problems down the line, and we don't really want that. And we want to make sure that you have that clear intention of, I really want to do the right thing here, and I want to take care of it the right way. And so we really want to help and walk with you in that process.
Right. Another thing that I advise people that are considering bankruptcy is not to liquidate their 401k or their retirement accounts. Why do I tell people not to do that?
Yeah, so that's income now, right? Leave it there and leave it protected, because it's going to be protected in the bankruptcy. If you pull it out, you're now showing that you have an influx of income, and you don't want that. Right? Let's take care of it. Let's protect it. And when you're done, if you want to pull out, you pull out.
Right. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, if you've been laid off from your job and, you don't know how long you're going to be laid off, you think, well, I'll just go ahead and cash out my retirement and pay creditors with it and so forth. But if that, what we see a lot of times is somebody has done that, and then the unemployment stretches on a lot longer than they thought it was going to stretch on, and they still have to end up filing for bankruptcy. And they didn't completely pay off the debt. So they still have to file bankruptcy. And if they had kept the retirement and filed bankruptcy, they could have wiped out the debt and kept the retirement because it could be exempt. But now they've liquidated that and still had to file bankruptcy, and now they've exhausted all the retirement. Yeah. What is something else that people do a lot of times is similar to that related to their house?
So home equity loans, right? So they'll take out a home equity loan thinking they can pay, and then you end up defaulting on your home equity loan. So now you've actually put your house in a bigger bind than it was to start with, right? So you don't want to rob Peter to pay Paul, right? Because then you're just putting yourself further in debt, really. Right. And now you've leveraged your home to pay off credit cards or whatever the case may be. So yeah, we don't want you to be doing that either without talking to us first.
Exactly. Right? Yeah, because I mean, it makes sense the way it's pitched, because you'd be like, well, we're paying 20% interest. You're going to pay all this extra money if you just pay the credit cards directly. However, you've got this equity in your house. Why don't we go ahead and you get a loan against your house? You're only going to pay, a small amount of interest. You can pay off those cards and you can pay this off, and that's great. But what they don't tell you is that if something happens, you have a catastrophic event, you've had extended period of unemployment, you get ill, now you can't afford to make that payment. And your house was protected, if you need to file bankruptcy, and now people are potentially losing their house. And those are the heartbreaking cases that we don't want to see, is people that still have to end up filing, who've exhausted their retirement, have put their house in a situation where they're going to lose it, and it didn't help. So
and a lot of the companies that are offering, help with the home equity loans and stuff, they make it sound so great, and it does sound fantastic, and it sounds like something that's really going to work and benefit me. But when you really step back and think about what kind of collateral you're putting up, do you really want to put your home at risk to pay for credit cards or, other things, and you don't want to put your family and your home up in jeopardy like that.
Right. So you want to be able to get that information. We offer a free consultation at our office, and what that means is that people can come in virtually is what we're offering right now, or in person, but we're set up to be 100% virtual, where you can just, on your phone, you can go to our website, log into our portal, you can video conference with us, you can audio conference with us. It's really convenient. You can upload documents to us securely, and what we're going to do is we're going to look at your situation and give you a custom plan and say, here are some challenges that you have. You really want to watch out for doing X, Y, and Z. Everybody we talk to is not necessarily a candidate for bankruptcy, or not a candidate for bankruptcy right now. So we do a lot of bankruptcy planning with people. We're going to say, like, look, you're going to get the most benefit if you file a couple of months from now because of this or that. And then we're able to give them some guidance. And then it's their choice if they want to go forward with it, but at least now they know what their options are.
Yeah.
Right. So what's next if somebody has been considering this,
Yeah, so just the next step is contacting us, right? So let's get you in our office. Let's have you talk to one of our bankruptcy professionals. Let's get the process started. So what can they expect in an initial consultation?
Okay. Well, the first thing that they can expect is that when they call us, they're going to be treated with respect, and we're not going to judge them. I've shared a lot of my personal history with my early life and growing up, and some financial hardships we faced in my single parent family, and our core values that we strive for. The reason why we're in this business is because we have a passion for helping people in financial situation. So we know that people who need help are not needing help because of something they've done that is reckless or of their choosing. 99% of the people we talk with did not choose to be laid off, did not choose to have a pandemic hit the country, did not choose to get divorced or have a lawsuit against them or get cancer or some big illness where they can't do it. So we're not going to judge you. We're going to empathize with you. We're going to guide you through the process and take your hand and do it. So when you first call, you're going to speak with somebody from our office who's going to gather some general information, let you know when we're available to speak with you. We may be able to speak with you immediately, or we may have to schedule something in the future. And then they're going to kind of go through the process and tell you what to expect for that consultation. So those who have just retained our office, or before we get to that point, I'm getting ahead of myself, who've just made the decision to come in to get information from us, we want them to know what's that going to look like. Okay, so number one, we have a questionnaire. It's a short couple-page questionnaire that we have potential clients fill out so we can get an idea of their situation and what kind of advice we get. Because obviously, if we don't do that, then we're going to not be able to give you a custom plan. We're going to be giving you a generalized information about bankruptcy. So we want to get in there and make it specific and customized. So we give you access to our website portal where you'll get a secure login and password. You can then go in through that portal and fill out the questionnaire. So we're going to basically, you're familiar with the questionnaire. What kinds of things are we going to ask them on that questionnaire?
Yeah, so it's going to be kind of a breakdown of who you are, right? So do you have a job? How long have you been at your job? Do you have vehicles? Do you own your home? Do you rent? How many people are in your household? How much is your income? It's going to be just a basic rundown of you by numbers, right? It's not a reflection of you personally. It's a reflection of you by the numbers. And so that helps them, the person you're meeting with, break down and figure out the strategy that's best for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so on that paperwork, these questions do have a backstory or an ulterior motive. So we're not going to try to put you in front of a fire hose and give you 20 years worth of bankruptcy experience, that we have doing this. We're going to ask you the questions and apply your answers to the bankruptcy code. So if we ask you, like, how long have you lived in Texas? As an example, the reason why we're asking that is to see if you meet the jurisdictional requirements to file a bankruptcy case here. Do you meet the jurisdictional requirements to be able to exempt your property under Texas property exemptions? Did you put a large amount down on your house that you transferred from another place? We want to make sure that that's protected. So that one little answer about how long you lived here has like 4 or 5 implications for your future of your bankruptcy filing. So that's why we do this. And that kind of goes across for everything. But it's really quick and easy. It makes it a lot more efficient if they do have the opportunity to do that. If some people do not feel comfortable with technology or doing it online, that's fine too. We'll be happy to ask you those questions and go through those with you during the consultation. We'll just budget a little bit more time to do that. So now we've got to the stage where you scheduled an appointment, you filled out your initial paperwork. What else do you need to bring with you to that consultation? Anything?
I would say like an open mind, right? An open mind, and just understand like we're here to really help. And so every little thing that you can give us is the best. We would prefer to start with some documentation. You want to bring us your ID, your social security card. If you are facing a lawsuit, bring that information with you, or provide it to us if it's a virtual meet prior to, so that we do have the full backstory behind everything. And like I said, just an open mind, right?
Yes.
And just give us the information, and just know that we're not going to judge, and we're here to help at the bottom of it all. So yeah.
You're totally right. So the answer is you don't have to bring anything with you, but there are things, the more information we have, the more detailed response we get. So if you do have your pay stubs, your recent pay stubs or pay stubs for the last 6 months, if you have your last couple of years tax returns, if you have any creditor statements, if there's some creditor that's giving you really bad heartburn because they're suing you, foreclosing on you, repossessing on you, bring in all that documentation, upload that documentation for us. The more information we have, the more customized, personalized experience we can get you. However, we don't want to scare you off and make you think, oh no, I don't have X or Y, therefore I can't go forward and get the information. No, you don't have to provide anything at this stage. We can still give you a customized approach, but if you do have it, we'll take it.
Right.
All right. So now we're at the point to where you're meeting with a consultant. So you potentially are going to be meeting with a representative from our office who are our client specialist. And so they have been doing bankruptcy now for, most of them have been doing it all for over 20 years. And so they will do what we consider an intake. So they'll gather the information from you, go over the questionnaire, get everything ready. Like just how you go to a nurse's office and they take you back, doctor's office, I should say.
Right.
The nurses are really in charge. But the nurse comes in, she takes your blood pressure, she asks you questions, she bits down the chart. That's what these people in our office are going to do. They really know ins and outs of bankruptcy. They're going to gather that information. And then after all that's gathered, then the attorney will be available to come in and review the situation and make sure that the direction we're taking is the correct direction for the client, and the client can ask questions and we know what the next steps are going to be. All right. So what you should expect after this consultation is you should expect to know all of your bankruptcy and non-bankruptcy options. You should expect to know if you qualify for bankruptcy, which chapter of bankruptcy maybe fits you best, what it looks like for those other chapters of bankruptcy, your property that you own, is it going to be protected, any asset protection strategies or plans, getting ready to file the case. We're going to get you all of that information. So you're going to walk out fully informed, fully empowered to know what direction you need to take things going forward. Right? So now we've done that. Somebody has reviewed that situation. They're thinking, yes, okay, this option right here, this is exactly what I was looking for. I don't have to lose sleep anymore. I want to go forward. What happens now for that client?
Yeah, so, we would set up and retain, right? So we get everything set up. We start your case process. And so after you sign that retainer with us and we have your file set up in our systems, you've already got your client portal set up. And this is going to be key for you for the entire process of your case. It's going to be your tool for uploading documents, communication, seeing kind of the lifeline of your case. So this is all super important for you. And then you're going to be contacted by a primary paralegal, so your case manager up until your case gets filed. And this person is going to walk you through what are your next steps. So what do they need from you, what documents they're going to need, or what the next step really looks like.
Right, exactly. So that person is like a concierge. There's somebody who's going to be your primary point of contact, your go-to to get questions answered, to guide you through the process, to help you find the documents that you're going to need, overcome any objections or obstacles that you're facing, and really get you from the point of, like, you've made this decision, we want to reach this goal or destination, but before we get there, we have to do some things. And what we have to do is, under the bankruptcy code, there's bankruptcy schedules that have to be filed in the case. And all the information that goes in that bankruptcy schedules, we use that by asking the client questions and also by collecting important documents. And then we use those documents to complete the bankruptcy schedules for you to review and sign. So it's a lot of people get overwhelmed with this process thinking about getting all these documents, but to be honest with you, it's really not that complicated. And in fact, you were telling me something earlier about how you think about it, and I'd love for you to share that.
Yeah, so when we think about like the petition and all these documents that we really need to really gather all the information and really get a complete picture of you, right? It breaks down into 3 categories: your income, what you own, and who you owe. And it breaks down a little bit further, right? So your income is going to be your pay stubs, any supplemental forms of income that you have, whether it's Social Security, disability, unemployment. If you have a business where you're a hairdresser at a salon, you lease your space. So now we need profit and loss statements, right? All the money that you bring in, and then your tax returns fall in there too, right? Mm-hmm. And these are all key to really show this is how much I make, this is what I have available, and really like the key thing we need, right?
Exactly.
And so that all breaks into the income, and then when you go ahead. I can see you with
I don't know if you're about to go forward to the next one because I want to ask you some questions about
go
income.
ahead.
All right. So basically, whenever you receive income, however you receive it, because people receive all different, some people are employed and get pay stubs, some people get Social Security benefits, retirement benefits, some people get help from assistance from family members, maybe they have rental properties, they receive rent. There's all different kinds of ways people get income, and the short and sweet of it is we need documentation to verify how much income you are getting over the 6 months before you file the case. And so, like you just said, that can be pay stubs, that can be an award letter from the Social Security Department, a retirement account statement, benefit statement. It could be a letter from your sister or brother, uncle, mom or dad, or whoever saying, hey, I'm helping them out right now and I'm paying them X amount per month. And then the profit and loss that you mentioned, people may not be familiar with that terminology, but mainly what it means is if you are self-employed, right, and you're doing some type of job, you mentioned hairdresser, truck driver, housekeeper, something like that. What profit and loss means is you basically would take your snapshot for 1 month, and then you would add up and provide documentation of all the income you received from that occupation. And so if you are a hairdresser, then you would have some type of log and show, I cut 5 people's hair, made $100 per haircut for this day, added up for the month. This is the total income that I made from this position. But I also have to pay my rent for my space because I lease the space at the hair salon, and I also have to buy product, and I have to do maintenance on my equipment. And so those are all your expenses for what you spend in a month. And some of those things maybe you only spend once a year, but then so we would amortize it over a month, and then you take that amount of gross income minus the expenses for that month, and then you have your net profit. Okay, so that's basically what we're talking about for profit and loss.
Yeah, and and it doesn't mean like I have my own business. It means I'm my own boss, right? So it could be dog walking, it could be housekeeping, it could be like a hair salon. So it's not necessarily like I have my own dry cleaning business
or employees.
Right. Yeah. It's ways that I make income outside of having somebody else as a boss.
Exactly. Right. And so we have forms available for our clients so that they can help them prepare that. We'll help them get that done. So I interrupted you about that. So we've got the first category, to recap, you said is basically things related to your income.
Right.
What's the next category?
So the next category is what you own. So this is going to be all of your assets. So after you meet with our IC person, and your concierge or your case manager or your main paralegal is going to give you what they call a welcome packet. So this welcome packet is going to have a bunch of forms. They're going to be able to walk you through them to make sure they're filled out correctly. But we want to break down, like, do you own your home? How many vehicles do you own? Do you have any rental like storage units or rental properties? Do you have RVs, trucks?
Bank statements.
Yeah. So your bank accounts, and then we're going to break down to like what you own in your home, right down to your frying pans, right? Because we want to have a complete picture of what you own, right?
Yeah.
So the welcome packet is a huge piece of the document collection. But then we want to go a little bit further. We need your bank statements because we want to see, the trustee is going to want to see too, how much money is in your bank account and where it's going, right? Where their major withdrawals or deposits and why. And then we're going to want mortgage statements. We're going to want vehicle statements. Any lease agreements, your
Divorce
insurance,
decrees.
Insurance policies, divorce decrees, like what you own. We need to see it all, right?
Yeah.
And it's going to feel overwhelming and it's going to seem overwhelming.
Sounds horrible.
It does. But we can walk you through that process. And there are a lot of tips and tricks on how to get the documents you need, right? So like insurance deck pages can sometimes be a pain. I don't know where mine is, but I do have an app where I can get it, right? And we can help you through that process too.
Exactly. But a huge welcome packet too, it's like 3 pages long or 4 pages long. So it's really not super daunting, and mainly what it is it's kind of a checklist of all property like TVs and beds, and just to make sure you go through the thought process and check everything off to make sure you accurately disclose everything. Because the reason why we want to do this is because there's very generous exemptions, and I mean maybe I'll take for granted that people know what an exemption is, so I'll drive down a little bit deeper on that. So under the law, so we have state law and we have federal law, they decided that we don't want to have people be in debtor's prison, because in the past, if you owed somebody money, they would just throw you in jail, and then you pay. Well, how is somebody to pay if they're in jail? That's not going to happen. And then so we decided as a society that the concept of bankruptcy would allow people who've gone through a difficult time to have a fresh start. But in order for them to start up again, we can't take away all their property. So under state law, we have a thing called the homestead exemption, which a lot of people hear about. So that means in Texas, if you've been here for the required amount of time, you can have unlimited equity in your house and your creditors cannot take it. So you may have, let's say you have a $10 million house and it's paid in full, and you owe $10 million in unsecured debt. If you file for bankruptcy, you keep your house, the unsecured debt goes away. They can't take your house. They can't force you to sell it under the Texas homestead exemption. That's a popular one that people know about. Then there's also provisions in the law for how much in clothing and household goods and furnishings and vehicles and retirement accounts, and everything else is itemized. Then we also have the counterpart of that under federal exemptions, and it also spells things out. And some states decide, hey, you can only use our state law on the property you can keep or the exemptions, and some say you can only use federal, and then some say you can use either one. And we're lucky in Texas because we can pick and choose between state exemptions or federal exemptions. So we will do the analysis to determine, hey, you've listed all this property now, let me go pull all the code provisions and say you'd be better to use these federal exemptions or state exemptions. And so hopefully that might have been a little bit too much, but that's about why we're asking for all this information about the property. And to help you out, a lot of people may be like me, you get the mail, you're on electronic statements or whatever, you shred your mail, you don't keep a lot of paper around here. People aren't keeping paper. That's fine. A lot of employers now have a portal where you can just go log in, pick the pay stubs you want, download this as PDF. You can then go to our portal, upload it as PDF, you're done. Some people, who have insurance, like I don't know what my insurance is, you're really experienced on a lot of the apps from talking with clients that they can log into their app, go there and get a digital copy. They can also pick up the phone and call their insurance agent and say, hey, will you fax over or email over to Allmand Law Firm a copy of my declaration page? You have your tax returns. Great, send them to us. You don't? We're going to get to that in just a second. Or why don't we do it right now?
Sure. Yeah, so you can visit irs.gov and you can request your tax transcripts. So I know a lot of people are having a hard time getting a hold of their CPAs or their tax preparers right now, or their offices are closed, or they just have a backlog of requests right now. So irs.gov, you can request transcripts pretty easily, and we do have a step-by-step guide for that to help guide you through how to do that. And you can request any of the previous years up until the current year. So that is a great tool and a resource that's available too. And you might not have the original document like you said, but we do have pointers and tips and tricks on how to get around it to get the information that we need. You just, reach out, right? Let us know and we can help you through that process. Absolutely.
That was a lot faster way of basically what I was trying to say is that don't stress about it if you don't have the physical copy. The part of the thing that we're here to do is we're super experienced in doing this because we help thousands of clients a year solve these problems. So we'll help guide you through it and help you find everything and get it together. And
the electronic age is great because we can get pretty much anything pretty quickly and we can help you through that process.
Right. And the cool thing that I really enjoy about our portal is that it's transparent for the client. They'll have a list of documents we need. They can take the electronic file, upload it. It'll be marked done. They'll know that we got it. There won't have to be a conversation. Hey, I emailed that to you. Did you get it? Is it what you needed? We'll review that document. And if it's not what we needed, we'll send you another notification with a new upload option. Say, hey, that was great, but we're missing X, Y, and Z. Can you also get us that?
Yeah, so the document request that you're talking about is specific for your case too.
Right.
And so we're not going to put out like we need all of these documents that might not actually apply to you.
Right.
And so it's specific to you. Your case manager can then review it and can provide immediate feedback on, yes, that's what we need, or no, we need a little bit more, right? And then can help you get it.
Yeah. And you mentioned the IRS.gov. I actually used the IRS.gov this past tax season because I was missing a 1099 statement for something. And it was incredibly easy. I was really shocked. I just went to IRS.gov. I went to transcripts, and then I created a login and password. And in order to get set up an account, you do have to have like a cell phone registered in your name. You have to have an email account, and then you answer some identifying questions based on your credit, stuff that only you would know, like which of these addresses have you lived at, and so forth. So once you go through that, you're set up, and now you just go in and download it. You can download prior tax returns, or let's say you need to file a prior tax return and you're like, I have no idea where that W-2 is. How am I going to file? And a lot of people just get stalled out. Well, you can go on there and download your W-2s, your 1099s, and then download that tax form and complete it. So we have a step-by-step guide on how to do that. It's super helpful. We can walk everybody through that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we've done 2 categories to recap. We've done income, things related to your income, things related to things you owe. What is the third category?
So it's who you owe, right? So these are the creditors. So we'll pull a credit report for you and just ask you to review, right? Make sure everybody's listed on there that we need, right? And then if there are people that are not listed on there, we need that information, right? Because we want to include everybody. Let's get a full picture, right?
Why is it important to include everybody on the bankruptcy schedules? It's a loaded question.
It's a loaded question.
Yeah. So I'll go ahead and answer for you. Number one, we want to get everybody notification of the bankruptcy process, because when you file bankruptcy, there's an automatic stay that goes into place. And that means that they can't call you, collect from you, try to sue you, or do anything to harass you. And a lot of people are getting harassed. And so we want them to be on notice that this bankruptcy is happening, because if they continue to harass after that point, there may be statutory damages and a case for them to be able to proceed forward with that. And also, depending on which chapter you file, we want to make sure the debt's discharged. Because in a Chapter 13, if you fail to list somebody and they don't have an opportunity to file a claim, then that debt may survive the bankruptcy and not be discharged. We're lucky in a Chapter 7 that most Chapter 7s we file, there's no non-exempt property that's being liquidated for people to get any cash. And in that situation, if they're not listed, we have case law that says even if they're not listed, they're still discharged. But that's an extra hassle for you of somebody contacting you and having to get with us to go through that process. So that's why they should list everybody they owe. So you're right, that's a category. We want credit card statements, we want medical bills, we want your credit report, and make sure we get a full reconciliation. And then the information that we need to include those creditors on the bankruptcy schedules. Do you want to take a crack on that? Like what key pieces of information for each creditor are required in order to get them listed?
Yeah, so we want to know, obviously, the creditor's name. We want to know the address. We want to know when the debt was incurred. And, if you can provide a statement, that's the best. And how much, right?
Right.
Did I miss one?
No, you got it all.
Okay.
And if you're married, we'll need to know if it is a joint debt or if it's, in just in an individual's, name. But yeah, this main stuff is we need to know who they are, how much you owe, the account number, so we can make sure that we get the notice and get it accurately listed. All right. So now we've gone through, to recap, we've gone through the people considering bankruptcy, people going through the process of consultation, people now after they've retained and they're needing to go forward. What else do you think that we should talk about? Perhaps maybe people who are now in this process between retaining and filing and they're still getting harassed by creditors. What do they do?
Yeah, so if you're still being contacted by creditors prior to actually filing your case, we can provide a letter for you that says that you have the intention of filing, right? And so then that stops it. And you can also refer them to us,
yes.
right? Let them know that you've retained us and they can contact us directly.
Right. And so one of the key advantages that we offer our clients when they've retained and then we're in the process between retaining and filing is that we're now their attorney. Mm-hmm. And so they can just say when somebody calls, I am represented by Allmand Law Firm. Here's their name and number. You need to call them about this and stop calling me.
Yeah, what a huge relief, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't have to deal with the creditors calling and calling and calling. You can say, contact my attorney.
Exactly.
So it's a huge relief.
And in practically, what happens when our clients do that? I mean, if they were getting 10 collection calls a day, they tell all 10 of them, do people keep calling? Does it stop? What happens?
It generally stops. Sometimes it continues, but for the most part, you're going to see a decrease.
Right, exactly. And so it's important to keep track of who these people are. There's actually federal law that protects people from unscrupulous, debt collectors. And once you tell them that you're represented by an attorney, they're required to start notifying us. If they continue to harass you, after you've notified them in writing that you're not going to talk to them, you may have a cause of action for a different kind of lawsuit besides bankruptcy. And so if that's a situation, in order to prosecute those things, you have to have records. So that means that when somebody calls you and you notify them, take a screenshot of their phone number if they're calling you. Ask who you're speaking with. Start a log and say on August 6th, this creditor called me. I spoke with, this person, Ted over there, and here's what they said. And I told them X, Y, and Z. And then start keeping track of that log so that if we can get a repetitious situation going on, you may have a case.
Yeah, and it's super easy from the beginning, instead of having to go back and try to remember or look at your call logs or get it from your phone company. And if you're tech savvy enough, record the phone call. And keep a log and let us know every time that creditor is contacting you. And so we can, potentially build a case for you. Like I said, it's always easier at the beginning than it is, well, hey, you might have a case. Let's go back and get all the information. If you have the information from the start.
And if you don't think you owe them the money, you should tell them, hey, I don't know who you are. That's not a debt that I owe. And you can put them on notice that you don't owe that. You can also tell them that you can't afford to pay them, right now. One thing you definitely should not do, and this is a little trick that a lot of people in debt collection do, is like, well, just make a good faith payment. Just pay $5. Why? What is dangerous about just paying them $5 if you know you can't afford to pay back this debt?
Yeah, just don't pay it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you know that you can't pay the debt, and you're going to be filing for bankruptcy and this debt is going to be included, don't pay the creditor.
Exactly. Yeah, and something else happens that when we file the bankruptcy case, if you have not paid that creditor, in more than 4 years, then you have a potential defense to that debt. So in Texas, there's a statute of limitations. So if you owe money to a creditor and you can't afford to pay them, and you have not paid them anything for this 4-year period, and they have not sued you and got a judgment, then that debt, you have a defense. If they did sue you after that period, you could file a response and say it's beyond the statute of limitations. If you file a bankruptcy case and they file a claim, we can object to that claim and say it's beyond the statute of limitations. However, if you pay them $5 a week before we file the case, now we can object, and they have to go in there and potentially get paid. So that's why it's important not to do the good faith payment. It's great to make payments. We're not telling people not to pay their creditors.
No. Yeah, no.
So if you can afford to pay your creditors and you can take care of your debt, absolutely should do that, and not go off the bankruptcy route. But if you know that you can't pay this $50,000 medical debt, you're never going to be able to afford to pay this $50,000 medical debt, there's no point in setting up a payment plan or something to just keep extending those statutory deadlines that you're entitled to under the law. Another thing, maybe, can you think of anything else that maybe they should not do if a creditor calls them?
Yeah, I think the big thing, I talked about is, like, it's a huge relief, right, that you've retained us to represent you, and you can say, please talk to my attorney. Just don't lose your temper, right? Yeah. When you're talking to the creditor, it's easy to go off the rails, right? Because sometimes they're pretty aggressive, and
it may be therapeutic.
Yeah, and it might be therapeutic, right? But just don't lose your temper. Keep your cool. Just refer them to us, and let us take care of it for you.
Right. Yeah, because as you know, most of the time those calls are recorded.
Yeah.
And so if you do have somebody who's repetitively harassing you, and eventually it ever goes to court, and those calls are going to be played, you may have a great case, but then if you go off the rails and do that, it may hurt potentially your case. So we hope that you never get to that situation, because we're wanting you to refer your creditors to us, and we'll take care of it. But we just want to give you some handy tips about that. So any final thoughts that you have for somebody in this stage that we're talking about who is considering filing for bankruptcy and it's just started the process but hasn't filed the case yet? Yeah,
I think just key things to remember are just, we are here to really help you through the process. We're sympathetic and supportive, and it truly is a partnership, right? There are things that we require of you. There's things that we're required, and we are here for you both in the sense of we're going to get this accomplished for you, but we're also here for you for that support. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So while we're in business and we're in the business of helping you through this bankruptcy process, we're also here, like you said, because we have a passion for helping people, and we don't want you to feel daunted or overwhelmed or like you can't sleep at night, right? We want you to feel relaxed and like your situation's under control, so you can get that fresh start.
Exactly. All right. Well, thank you so much for going through all this with us and letting us know these tips and strategies. I want to thank everybody for watching today. Here at Allmand Law Firm, we really want to make sure that we give you all the information so that you can be successful in your financial future. If you're considering filing for bankruptcy, I hope these tips were helpful for you and kind of also give you a sneak peek into what you're looking to do after maybe you reach out for a consultation or you get the case ready to get filed. For those who've already made the step to retain Allmand Law Firm, I want to tell you thank you. It's a huge honor for us to be able to help you through this process. We want to make sure that everything is taken care of, all your questions are answered, we get the bankruptcy case filed and get you that relief that you're looking for. How good is it going to feel, to be debt-free? All the things that you're going to be able to do for your family, save for your future, rebuild your credit, put those sleepless nights behind you and all that stress. And we want to be a part of that success story for you. So reach out to us at 214-265-0123. Talk to one of our agents, schedule that free consultation right now. Visit us on our website at allmandlaw.com or on creditandbankruptcy.com. Thank you and have a wonderful day.